Hi, and on today's video we are going to be looking at the Elgato 4K-X. Now this one is something I've been looking for a long time. Now this one here does have a massive feature that's going to pretty much make game capturing an absolute joy. It supports a full 4K 120 Hz record and pass through. In fact, I think it can even pass through at higher resolutions. We will get onto the exact support for this device in a moment. What we will do first is just get it unboxed, and then we'll delve into it. So there we are, that is the unboxing. This is the 4K-X. As you can see, just at the back there, we've got what we said, the HDMI in and HDMI out, and the USB, which will be your 10 gigabit, and a 3.5mm jack on the front there. So I suppose one of the questions could be, how do I go about connecting my Elgato? Well, it's really straightforward. I'm not going to pander to the worst case scenario here, but basically I've got my HDMI cable that comes in the box. If we're using the Xbox Series X, for example, you can do exactly the same with the PlayStation 5, the S series, and all those kind of peripherals that can connect in. So all I'm going to do is take my HDMI cable directly from my Series X, and on the back here, as we said, there is a HDMI in and a HDMI out. We'll just go simply into the in. We'll take our USB 3.2 Gen 2 cable, and we'll make sure that we're inserting it into a 3.2 Gen USB. Now, you can use the 4K capture utility that comes with this. I would strongly recommend though, however, you use OBS, because you'll have a much better time. There may be some additional configuration you need to do, and we'll cover that off in a short while. So what I'm going to do is show you how to basically capture the audio and make sure you've got the correct settings for the 4K-X in OBS. So at the moment what I've done is just added a source, which is a video capture device. Now this is actually the Elgato 4K-X. There's nothing connected to it at the moment. So if I basically go in here, you can see it's blank screen because I've got nothing connected, but this is just to show you exactly what settings to use. So what we're going to do is just look at this section, which basically shows the 4K-X as the device there. You'll notice in the resolution type I've selected custom. Therefore, I can then set, and you don't need to, sometimes auto will actually do the job, but what I've done is then set the resolution to 4K, which is that 3840 by 2160. The FPS I've hard set as 120, and then basically a little bit further down you'll notice you've got this audio capture mode. Now all I'm doing here is changing that from what it probably would have been as in direct sound to capture video audio only, use custom audio device, and then deliberately selecting the 4K-X. Now there is another way you can do this if you don't want to necessarily use that to capture
the audio, and that's to go into add an audio input capture. And I should then be also able to set the 4KX there as well. So that way you can have two different sources basically driving the same thing. And then if you wanted to, you can just mute one of these. Like if I wanted to mute my mic, for example, if I was going to do the audio input capture, I can just do it there and capture it that way. The one thing you do need to be aware of as well is when you are recording is to try to keep them on different tracks. So let's assume this one here is the game capture here. Let's make sure what we would do is probably turn the mic, shouldn't be on every audio track. What we would do is basically then force one of these into separate tracks. So we'd have the mic in track 1 and the game capture, say for example, in track 2. So let's just have a quick look over the options, and you can find all this information out at Elgato's website under the help function. Now, this kind of explains a little bit about the legend. So you can see the input pass-through signal, etc. And then the capture format. So this is what we're really interested in, right? So you'll notice there's a difference between what will capture in SDR or HDR. So that's standard definition range or high definition range, if you're not sure. So basically what I was referring to earlier, you can actually capture in 4K at 144 frames per second. So that's worth noting. There are certain variables that will have to be met for that to happen, but you can also certainly pass through at those signals as well. So the only thing to note, obviously, is it will only capture at standard definition range for that. So that's just something to be aware of, that these 4K 120s will only ever come in as SDR. Now, most times, if you're going to be recording for the likes of YouTube, I don't think YouTube actually allows anything above 4K 60 at the moment anyway. So whether you're actually overclocking it at the moment just for the sake of it is probably an interesting debate. So just something to be aware of. You're probably absolutely fine to capture at 4K 60 most of the time. So it's just something to be aware of. When you go further down, obviously there are some 1440p support as well. So you've got a few different options there where you can kind of dip in and out. Now, the key thing in here is obviously to understand what limitations the USB will create. And this is one of the things that's definitely worth understanding, is that if you only use a 5 gigabit connection, so it's most likely will be your PC or laptop that's limiting this, because the one on the device is actually a full 10 gig support. But you'll notice here that this will have an impact on anything. So obviously when you start to get into the likes of 10-bit recording using different codecs, that will have a knock-on effect for recording at anything above that kind of 4K section. You'll have a reduction in the frames per second or frame rate recording. So that's just something to be aware of. And also at the very different bottom here, it does also say it does not support the capture video signals using the display stream compression. So that's just something to be aware of. And ultra wide support. Now this will actually increase over time. So I've just done a firmware update on mine, which is quite a useful thing to do. So if you're not aware of how to do a firmware update, let me just show you. So if I bring up the 4K capture utility, this is the only thing I actually use this capture utility for, but you can come into your settings at the top here. You'll see that you've got the device here. You'll see there's a firmware version. If there is an update, the button will be here. You can just click that button. It allows you to go through a few things like making sure you don't have any HDMIs connected, and then you can just click the firmware update and it will go away and do that for you. So yeah, we'll absolutely do that job, no problem.
Anyway, let's get into one. Let's see what the game capture footage looks like on this, and two, give you my thoughts. Now, it was a toss-up between this one and the internal one, but what swung me on this is the fact that I can kind of take this between different rooms if I decide to go out. You know, if I do some some remote work where I'm going to have to do some capturing, then this will come in very handy. I probably will also pick up the 4K Pro at some point as well to have in a desktop. But yeah, let's do some recordings and have a look. to bear in mind is with the PlayStation 5, you will have to turn off HDCP to enable it to pass through. Now that's just some of the copy protection that's available for the likes of Netflix and various other streaming apps that they don't want you necessarily to have the ability to capture. So you will need to turn that feature off on the PlayStation 5, and I'll show you how to do that.
So to get the HDMI to work correctly and not just give us a blank screen, we need to go into settings in the PS5, and in the HDMI section is just toggle that HDCP. Once we've done that, we can absolutely use the device as intended and we won't have any more challenges.
Time's not far now.
First time back since.
Yeah. First time.
Same here. Didn't seem worth coming back till now. Didn't think there was anything to come back to.
Sorry.
It's on now. It's over.
I'm coming! You're burning up! Stay close, would you?
So there is some other settings you need to also change on the Xbox, and this is just primarily around the audio out. So if you have it in anything other than stereo uncompressed, I've noticed it has a few challenges. So just leave it as stereo uncompressed, and that's how you'll get your audio.
Jaw-breaking news.
So, final thoughts on the Elgato 4K-X. Well, it is absolutely the best capture card there is for this. I've used Ava Media before. I've also owned a HD60 prior to this. This one absolutely, yeah, is sensational. It does everything you'll need it to. I don't think you're ever going to get a requirement above this at any point. Obviously, you can now get devices that can output at 4K. I believe the actual 4K Pro version of this can actually do pass-through up to 8K. However, your eyes necessarily won't really gain much benefit from that. So I would say this is probably a very good long-term investment. If you do a lot of game capturing, streaming, that kind of thing, you are a content creator, or even if you just like to capture yourself killing your friend countless times, this is perfect device to do that, because you can even take it around the house and capture it when you're killing them at theirs. So yeah, it's well worth it. But yes, I mean, for the price point, this was around 230. You can get it occasionally on deals. However, because it is the latest one, they tend to be a bit fewer and far between. But nevertheless, this is probably, like I said, the best capture card that you can get as of today. Anyway, if you have liked this review, please hit the like and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you next time.